Hello and welcome to Time Tactics so that you can work on your business. Time Tactics really so that you can do whatever you want, specifically so that you've got time to be able to work on your business to then allow the business to give you what you want from your life. Because ultimately we work for ourselves because we want some sort of freedom or we want something from that, right? In order for us to do that, we've got to have time to work on the business. We need to work on the business to move things forward. But the challenge I often hear from business owners is that I'm working too many hours. I haven't got time to work on the business. So today's session is about allowing you or giving you some tactics to allow you some time to be able to work on the business. So let's move on. If you're watching this live, welcome. If you're watching this on recording, then welcome too. The key thing to the success of these webinars is to think, what do you want to get out of this session? You'll get out of the session exactly what you plan to get out of. So if you're really clear on something that you want to get out of this session, then you'll find it. If you're not, then you probably won't. Also make notes. Feel free to drop comments into the comments box and I'll answer them where I can. Where you participate, you'll learn more. And once you've taken some notes, take some actions come the end of the day. When we finish the session, take some actions away because that's what will really cement the learning for you and make this a worthwhile use of your time too. See what I did there with time? So without further ado, let's crack on with that. And it is, as the screen says, your most valuable asset. So when all the money's gone, you can always go and make some more, as they say. But time, sadly, doesn't come back. So we've got to make the most use of it. So let's get on and make the best use of our time today. So a little bit about me. 10 years in my 10th year with Action Coach. Currently with Essex Central is a firm of coaches in Essex, but we're part of a global organization. And prior to that, I was 20 years in consumer finance. I specialized in developing teams, sales teams, managers, leaders and managers, and leadership and management. I'm really, I get a big kick out of that, getting the most out of people. One of the key things to that is being productive with your time. Management and leadership is about getting more productivity, getting more from people. Leadership might be inspiring people to go and want to do more, and management is getting them competent and productive so they can do more. So very much linked to having enough time in your diary. And I think what we've got is a couple of things that we need to understand with time. First of all, that it is arguably the most powerful force in the universe. You can't manage time. Time will happen whatever. And without going down the rabbit hole of just discussing the philosophies around time and is it real, you can't manage it. What you can do is manage yourself, and we'll talk some more about that. You always have more than you can do, more to do than you've got time to do. So we need to look at some prioritization in there. As we've said already, focus on self-management and have the discipline to do what needs to be done, not necessarily what you want to be done. So let's just have a quick look at the three key areas. So self-mastery, mastering oneself. Now, if we're aware, self-aware, then we're already going to be ahead, the step ahead there. So we'll know where our downsides are. If you're not self-aware, then perhaps we need to perhaps ask some others around us what they see about ourselves. We'll talk a bit about planning, about how we can use that to get the most of our time. And as leaders or business owners, it's really important for us to be able to delegate effectively. So we'll look a bit more into that. So this first one then, self-mastery. What's self-mastery about? What do I mean by self-mastery? I've said already, there is no such time as time management. We've all got 168 hours in a week, 86,000 something minutes or seconds. I'm not sure that one, but definitely 168 hours in the week. Isn't it interesting how some people get a whole lot more from that week than others do? And why is that? Well, there was an interesting interview with, I think it was Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates' dad, I think, was there as well. And some young kid asked them all together, what's the secret of success? And all keen to help this younger lad. They all answered, and bizarrely, they all answered the same thing, which was focus. Focus on the right thing. We can get very busy and maybe even think that we're focused, but are we focused on the right thing? And today we'll look at what that right thing needs to be for you. So when we're in business for ourselves, it's very easy to be putting out fires. In fact, as the business owner, we probably get good at putting out fires. In fact, we get used to being the Superman who's got the answer to everybody's problem. And we tend to solve the fires that are right in front of us. But we need to, at some stage, take a step back and find out why all those fires are there in the first place. It takes discipline as well to develop outside discipline, if you like, to develop first, and then internal discipline to develop second. We really need to understand a bit about tasks as well. The tasks that we've got, are they urgent or important? Are they a bit of both? Are they neither of either? And we'll be talking a bit more about that, and that'll help us with fighting less fires. Make a list of today's tasks at the end of each day. That's a great practice to get into for you and for your team, and important to do it at the end of the day. And then break that down into priorities. Set yourself some priorities for the next day. A's, B's, C's, and D's, if you like. A's, you could say, is going to make me money. B's might make me money. C's won't make me money, but I need to do them. And D's, you need to either defer them for a later date, delegate them to somebody else in the team, or delete them. So we mentioned there about self-mastery and how well we are at knowing ourselves. There's one thing to be able to be self-aware, but are we really aware of what's going on with our time and where we're spending our time? So a great place to start is to do a super quick time study. Now, one way of doing this is it's like a block time study like this. Hopefully you can see that. And the day to the week across the top, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and in this case, we've got Saturday as well. And then they're broken down into little segment intervals, 15, 30-minute intervals. And the idea is just to go back and jot down what you've been doing in that time. Now, for some people, they like detail and they're very good at doing that. If you're somebody who would struggle to do that for every 15 minutes or every 30 minutes of the day, then simply just have a review halfway through the day and at the end of the day too. So some of you may have done this already, some of you may not. We want to be doing this for a good week, 2 weeks, to get a good idea of where we're spending our time on. And you'll come up with some, in most cases, most people come up with some realizations that they hadn't realized before, just where they are spending all their time. In fact, I had one client once who was working 80 hours a week. And when he did this, he realized that 40 hours of his week were spent solving IT issues, where people were having IT problems and he was having to go and solve them for them, which was incredibly ridiculous considering they paid a huge amount out to an IT support team. So as soon as he realized that, he was able to half the amount of time that he was working immediately. So analysis is really good. And you'll probably find that there's people who are taking your time. There's little silly things you don't realize that you're doing. And it's quite an eye opener to do that. So analysis, first of all, what are you spending your time doing? What's taking up your time? And also, who's taking up your time? Who are those time wasters, time vampires, if you like? Now, it's not always their fault. It could be that our training, our systems and processes aren't adequate for them to do what they need to do, so that they need to come and tell you. But find out who they are and then see what training they might need to stop being such a vampire. So one of the things we need to be considering about with these tasks. So from the previous exercise, the time study, we've analysed just what we're spending our time doing on a daily and weekly basis and where our time's going. Now, each of these tasks that we're doing throughout the day, we could categorise these tasks into tasks that are urgent, tasks that are important, tasks that are both urgent and important, or tasks that are neither urgent and important. So why is this important? Well, I want to show you, this is from Stephen Covey's book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. In fact, it's also called the Eisenhower Matrix. I think from President Eisenhower first came up with this. And if you consider everything that you do, you could place it into an urgent or not urgent quadrant and an important and not important quadrant. Now, the thing that's taken up most of your time is going to be firefighting. So this will be the things that are a crisis, pressing problems. They'll be the things that often you've got to do now because you didn't do them 2 weeks ago. Or some problems occurred because you're having to be reactive because you weren't proactive about it in the first place. Now, these are important, and important, by the way, if something's important, that could well help you achieve your goals. Your goals being your long-term goals for you and the business. But urgent tasks don't necessarily get you towards your goal. So if we look there at quadrant 3, these are urgent, but not important. So interruptions, some people who are calling you, some emails and some reports and some meetings. Well, some of these may not be important. They'll be urgent because you're pinging up a notification, the phone's ringing, you're having to go to a meeting, but they're not necessarily important. So really, really important that you understand what you do need to be seeing and what you don't need to be seeing. Now, not urgent, not important, that's a complete waste of time. So how can you get those out of your life completely? So trivial stuff, just being busy. In fact, I just come off the call with a business owner just now who was saying that when he's busy, he's panicking a bit that he's going to get everything done, and when he's quiet, he's panicking a bit and that there's not going to be enough work, and he's just not doing any work. He's saying in both instances he can quite often sometimes just lose a day because he's just worrying about things. This would come under not urgent and not important. One of the actions that he's taken is to, on these days when he knows that he's more susceptible to be like that, he's got some steps now to follow so that he at least gets some productivity out of those sessions. And those steps, one of those steps was putting in processes to make his business better that he can't do when he's busy. So when he's quiet, he can put those processes in. So that's not urgent and not important. What about quadrant number 2? Things that are important and urgent. So if I was to ask you, what are the things that if you did, would have the biggest impact on the business? If you did regularly, would have the biggest impact on your business? Just think for a moment, what are those things that if you did regularly would have the biggest impact on your business and on you perhaps? Those things will fall in quadrant 2. Because I said, if you did them, so it means that you're not doing now, so they're probably not urgent, but would have the biggest impact on your business, so they are important. So this is things like prevention, as you can see, improvements, producing systems, building relationships, recognizing new opportunities, planning, and also recreation. Time for to sharpen the sword, time to have time off, to regenerate, if you like, time with our family. That's all important stuff that it's not urgent. We put it off. Another good example of not urgent but important is how we eat. If you eat McDonald's or takeaways regularly, it's probably not going to have an impact today or tomorrow or next week or next month. But sooner or later, it's going to take some years off your life. So it's important that you stop it sooner or later. What are the things, so an action from this might be, what are the things that you take from quadrant 2 that if you did do would have the biggest impact on your business? So if we take those same 4 quadrants and put them into a time target, on the outside, you can see the not urgent and not important. This could be looking at stuff on the internet, just wasting time. Now, if you feel the urge to do that, then schedule in some time to do that. If you really need to look at kittens on the internet during the working day, well, then schedule some time. Don't feel that you can't do that. But the key is not to let it distract you from important things. So schedule in a time to do that if you really must. Urgent and not important, again, these are the things where a common challenge is when people say, I've got an open door policy. A common challenge is an open door policy where people can come and see you whenever they want to. So turn that around. Have a specific time of the day or the week or a meeting when people can bring challenges to you. If it's really urgent, then maybe you can be just interrupted. But if it's just everyday stuff, can it wait till the meeting on Thursday? Yes, we'll bring it to that meeting then. What you'll probably find more often than not, come Thursday, they've already dealt with the solution as well. And if interruptions are a big part of what's your challenge in your life, then think about how you respond to those interruptions. If people are coming to you and asking you, how do you do this? How do you do that? What do I do here? Then turn it around. Change that into a question. Instead of telling them how to do it, ask them, well, what do you think? What do you think would work? How do you think? And listen, if their solution is 80% as good as what you'd say, then go with it. Because they'll own an idea, a solution that they come up with. As soon as you put in your 2 penneth worth, then it becomes your idea. So if they say, how do you do this? You say, what do you think? They say, I think we should do this. Good, go with it. But as soon as you then say, that's a good idea, but what about if you did this as well? Then it becomes your idea. So be careful with that. And as much as possible, let them go away and find out how good their solution is. So that's the urgent and not important stuff. What about urgent and important? Or that's probably going to be the majority of time. So if you can keep that as it is, but take some time away from the delusion and the distraction to spend more time to work on the business, then you'll find yourself getting less and less fires having to fight. Working on the business is proactive. Working on the business is moving the business forward. Working in the other 3 areas is just perpetuating the now. You're just going to carry on as you are, if you carry on doing those things. The only way to move forward is to work on the business. Good. So a lot of talking in that session just there. Any questions you got put in the chat box? Let's just check the chat box. Excellent. We've got some people in just letting us know that we're here. So we've got then our time target and we've done some analysis. What can we then do with that analysis? So we can do a skill fun matrix. So a skill fun matrix is really just analyzing you as a business owner, how much the tasks that you're doing, how important they are that you do. So are they low, medium or high skill? Are they low, medium or high enjoyment or fun? So but how do we measure skill? Okay, so I would say that if you can take a task that you do and you could write a process around it and then give that process or checklist or instructions to somebody who's got a great attitude but doesn't really have much skill in doing your work, if they could follow that process and do it, then I would say that's low to medium skill. If they still struggle to do that task, even with a process, then that's going to be a high skill level. Take your tasks that you've got on your analysis and put them onto this skill fun matrix. Fun is obviously, well, hopefully that's self-evident. If it's low enjoyment for you, it goes low. If you really enjoy it, it goes low. So high. So let's have a look at these. So some examples. So cleaning the office, opening up, invoicing, that might be low skill and low enjoyment for you. Customer issues, quoting, estimating, these are more medium skill, medium fun. Now, what you might also see with these is if it's low skill, low fun, then the amount that you're going to have to pay somebody to do that is lower. Medium is a bit more, but all the time it's a lot less than the level that you should be paid, that you're worth as the business owner. And then at this end, the high skill, high fun, this is strategic planning, sales, speaking, building relationships with key accounts. So if we look at this level here, so these are the things that perhaps we could pay somebody a lower amount to do. We may even be able to get a virtual assistant, somebody from the Philippines to do these things. They could do it virtually. These things we probably need to have somebody with a little bit more skills, so a bit more experience doing, and then the higher still. If we hire at this bottom level, best people with great attitude who really believe in our culture and see our vision and where we want to go, and are really enthusiastic, but they haven't got the skills, they can do this stuff at the bottom here. And then as they build up their skills, then they can go on to the next level and the next level. So just to highlight this a bit more about how relevant this is to your wage, if you like. If you're the leader, manager, or business owner of the business, if you're doing these low skill tasks, you're costing, you might be saving a wage, but you're costing a fortune. So let me just highlight this actually in this next slide. So let's imagine that we've got a simple business, an accountancy firm, and this accountant has an hourly rate of £100 an hour. Says, well, I'll do 40 hours a week and I'll do 50 weeks a year just for maths, and that will mean my total earnings is 200,000. Great, nice little business for them. But the reality is that you're not always doing £100 an hour work. And the same with your business. Are you always doing the top rate work, or do you get in the weeds and start ending up doing work that's not worth your hourly rate? So this is what can actually happen. So 20 hours a week, we're doing the £100 an hour work, which gives us 100,000. But then another 20 hours a week, we're doing work that you could pay somebody £10 an hour to do on average. Which over the course of a year might give us 10,000. So in this small business, we're actually only earning 110,000 versus a possible 200,000. So what would happen if we could get rid of this 20 hours a week to somebody and pay them £10,000 to do that, then give us another 20 hours a week to work just the top tier rate, give us another 100,000. So the cost, this instance here is actually costing the business £90,000. How much are you costing your business by doing those small, not small, lower skill tasks that you could be getting somebody else to do? Another query I get around this is, well, what if I don't have enough work for getting a whole employee? Well, maybe outsource to start with. Maybe get a virtual assistant or a company to do it. They might charge a little bit more to start with, but they'll be a lot more efficient. So a virtual PA, if you get the right one, a VA, they might charge £25 an hour, which might be a bit more than you could hire somebody for, but they're going to be a lot more efficient. They'll get things done a lot quicker than you can. And what you could do is you could trial it with them, get your processes in place so that when you're ready to take somebody on, you can take somebody on and they're good to go to follow the processes. Another way of looking at it is if you take somebody on and you've got 50% enough work to fill their capacity, then the law of vacuum means that if you create that vacuum, i.e. having half a person, half the person's work to do, work will come along to fill that, and that generally happens as well. So we've got then our self-mastery and making the most of ourselves when we're in work and we're running our business. But what about the business? What about the business and how efficient that's been? So there's a story, I don't know if you've come across this before, but I'll tell it to you anyway, about the lion, the mice, and the antelope. So it's an interesting fact that lions living in the African plains can actually capture and kill field mice. But it turns out that the energy that they need to do that, to capture a field mouse, is actually of a greater calorific content than the mouse itself. So if a lion spent his whole day hunting and eating field mice, it'd slowly starve itself to death. So basically what the story is saying is a lion can't live on mice alone. So lions need to eat antelopes. Antelopes are big, and while they take more speed and strength to capture and kill, once killed, they provide a huge feast for a lion and its pride. So a lion a lion can live a long and happy life on a diet of antelope. The difference between mice and antelope is really, really important relative to how the lion spends its time. And it's the same with your business. If in your business, you're spending all of your time and your energy going after field mice, you'll get short-term rewards, but are you feeling that you've got lots of activity and feeling accomplished, but in the long run, your business will suffer and maybe even die? So the question here is to ask yourself, am I spending my day chasing mice or hunting antelope? So what's an antelope for your business? What's a water buffalo for your business? What's an elephant for your business? Can you use your time better to focus on bigger things in your business rather than smaller issues? So this is the same with your tasks, as we've just spoke about, but also what about the types of clients that you're after as well? So how have you ever graded your clients to see which are like antelopes and which are like mice. So yeah, if we say that your antelopes are your A customers, or we might say that they're awesome. Your B are your basic customers. Your C's you can't deal with, and your D's are dead. So your D's, if we say D's are your dormice and A's are your antelopes, D's, if you carry on dealing with D's, then eventually they're probably going to eat up your profit. You're not going to make so much profit. You're not going to enjoy it. You're going to be using all your time, and so you're not going to make as much money. Whereas if you can focus on antelopes, your A grade customers, then you'll be using a lot less time. They'll be paying you exactly what you're asking for. They'll be a pleasure to work with. Your team will enjoy working with them, and you can get more profit from the same work, or even in less time as well. Also, if you're asking for referrals, do you ask for referrals from dormice or from antelopes? That's right, you'd ask for it from antelopes, because antelopes are going to know more antelopes. Dormice are going to know more dormice. Does that make sense? There's an interesting story with this, actually. There's a guy called Paddy Lunn who wrote a book called, I want to say Critical Non-Essentials, but whether that's the actual title of the book, I'm not sure. If you want to message me afterwards, I've actually got a copy of his book. Critical Non-Essentials is what he did to make himself super special. The idea being that some things are critical to delivering a wow in your business, to getting people to really want to come back, but they're not essential to you for you to provide your service. So most people don't do them, but they're critical if you really want to move your business forward and wow your customers. Now, what Paddy Lunn did, that was one of his tactics around that. He was a dentist, and he found that no matter how much he did extra training and put letters after his name and got really great at his job, didn't matter how great a dentist he was, he didn't get more customers. And dentistry, I think back then, was the industry with the highest level of suicide to any industry around. And so it was a pretty grim place to have a business. And he was feeling this. So he really did a complete turnaround of what he thought his customers expected. So no longer did he carry on doing more and more qualifications on how to be a great dentist. He turned it around to give customers an awesome experience. So first of all, you could only become a customer of his if you were referred to by one of his customers. And being one of his customers, one of the conditions of that is that you had to refer somebody who was just like them. And there's many other things in it. So he charged a lot more for this service because it became more exclusive. So he was able to target specific people who were of higher income and could afford his service. When they came in, they got an amazing experience. So they got a parking space with their name on it. When they came in, on the door, it had their name on it, had their favorite music or TV show in the waiting room. There was the smell of sugar-free muffins being cooked in the background, which you got after your dentist appointment. You've got a China set tea service serving you. So an amazing experience that everybody had for this. And so he was able to work a lot less and earn a lot more because he focused on getting A-grade customers. So what's an A-grade customer look like for you? And how can you get more of those A-grade customers, which will mean that you spend less time and make more money? So thought for you, so as an action or an exercise for this, here's a thought for you. Make a list of the 11 things that you could do, because we've all talked about getting better customers. But what are 11 things that you could do personally in your business to make you the company that A-grade antelope type customers would want to come and be? Because it's one thing you want in them, but how can you be the company or the person that they want to come and have as their customers? To take that as an action, give it some thought just now, or take it as an action afterwards. So we've talked a lot about self-mastery here. I want to move on to planning mastery. So planning comes in many different shapes and sizes. We could plan what we're doing the next day. We could plan what we're doing the next week, month, quarter, year, 5 years, 10 years. So on a daily basis, we probably overestimate what we can do on a daily basis, but underestimate what we can do in the long run. So when you're thinking about long-term goals, give yourself permission to dream. Dream for the future. Set yourself some goals that you've no idea how you're going to achieve. But for the short term, focus on what's most important. So there's a great book by a guy called Brian Tracy called Eat That Frog. And what Brian Tracy's saying is that, well, the premise was originally, it was something written by Mark Twain about if you start the day off by eating a frog, you can be safe in the knowledge that that's going to be the worst thing that you're going to have to do today. So if you start the day off with the task that you least want to do, then a few things happen there. Once you've completed it, you feel a lot better. You're motivated to go on and do something else. Because as soon as we've ticked off a task, we want to go and do more. That's how the human brain works. If you don't do it, it's continually going to be going over in your brain. You're going to be thinking about it in your brain until you do it. And so your brain's going to be using up energy thinking about that, worrying about it. So once it is done, it's done, and you're no longer going to be worrying about it. And the final thing is that if it's something that you've been putting off, it's probably an important task, probably something that needs a bit of thought, something that you're not comfortable with. And so by getting this task done, it's going to have a massive impact on your business. There's an 80-20 rule, which says that 20% of what you do gets 80% of the results. So if you do that 20%, and that could be the frog that you've got to eat in the morning, you've done most of what you need to do for the day. Then it's downhill from there. So that's a great tip for productivity. Moving on from on a daily basis, at the end of each day, write a to-do list for the next day. Important to handwrite that, because you're taking things out of your conscious brain and putting it into your subconscious by doing that. Your subconscious is the part of the brain which helps you breathe without thinking about it. It helps your heart beat without thinking about it. And so it's a lot bigger. And so it frees up room in your conscious brain, which will probably allow you to have a better sleep. And in the morning, you'll probably find the things that you wrote there might even have sorted into a better order, and you've come up with some sort of solution to some things in the morning. But handwrite what you've got to do for the next day in a priority list, A, B, C, and D, as we mentioned earlier. And get all your team to do that every day. You'll improve your productivity by 10% just by doing that. And on a Friday, get people to do the same thing at the end of the day of what's got to happen for the next week. And on a Monday, you've got everybody's list about what's going to happen this week, and you can have a meeting about work in progress, how you can arrange resources, and your week's off to a flying start already. So that's on a daily basis, and on a weekly basis. Then perhaps we talk about on a quarterly basis. So this is an example of a quarterly plan, a 90-day plan, an action plan. This is really how we're going to do stuff. This is the who is going to do what and when. This is organizing your longer term plan. So I said a moment ago, give yourself permission to dream in the long term. Where do you want to be in 5 or 10 years? What's that look like in 3 years? And then what's that look like in a year? where do you need to be in a year to be on target to achieve those 5-year goals? Now, when you've got where you want to be in a year, 4 steps to that are your 4 quarters of the year. And this is 1 quarter. And you might well split that into 1 goal for the quarter, or 2 or 3 or 4. I always get clients to have a must-achieve business goal, probably financial, a personal goal, which could be learning alongside that, and other business goals, whatever right for the business. But as a key part of your learning, so a key part of your goals is learning, because if you know how to do something, it's a task. A goal, essentially, a real goal, is something you've got to learn how to do. So you need to have some learning alongside that. On a daily basis, how are you going to achieve that? So that's quarterly. But then how have you set out your ideal week? This is what we call a default diary, or your ideal week diary. In this instance, the person has scheduled out every hour of the day, even lunch and setting up the day and sales calls and time off. You might not be able to do that, but you can definitely set some focus time throughout the week. So having an hour a day focus time is a great place to get started. If you're focused with no interruptions, you'll get significantly more done in that hour than you would otherwise. So what does your ideal week look like? Do you have 1 day out on site? Do you have another day doing financials? Do you have another day seeing team members? Where do you put yourself in the right position to be able to be focused for as much as possible? So planning mastery, self-mastery, that leaves us with delegation mastery. So delegation mastery, pretty tricky actually. Delegation it's not tricky, if I'm honest, but we make it tricky. We think that, again, somebody I was speaking to earlier said, right, I've got this new sales guy in now. He's going to take on this. It's going to free up my time. If I had £1 for every time I heard that, and it could be true, but if you're struggling with time right now, is getting somebody else really going to solve that? It might well help, but if you're just going to abdicate the work you don't want to do to that person, you're going to end up in problems. First of all, if they're not trained properly, if you abdicate the work, just push it to them, they'll become overwhelmed, they'll become disillusioned, and may well leave. But also, you as a person, if your productivity is low or you've not got time right now, is that just because you haven't got the staff, or is there something about you or something that you need to change personally to make you better organized? Let's have a look at delegation mastery and see what we can do to make that one of our areas of success. So basic time log, we've already talked about that. If you get a time log together, then you'll get an idea of the task that you should be delegating. Look for the things that you want to do, but you don't need to be doing. There could be some stuff that you do enjoy doing, you want to keep, great, but really, is it best for the business that you do that stuff? So again, speaking to somebody else today, his realization was that he was the leader of the business. He was managing the business, the people in the business. He was coaching people in the business as well, and he was helping with the sales in the business and the marketing. And he wasn't giving any area the best focus. So then he had some reflection on what does he need to do? What's he best at? What's going to have the best impact on the business? He decided that he needs to be the leader. That was the main thing that he needed to be focused on. Because if we focus on lots of stuff, we get beige results, if you like, at best with that. Whereas if we focus on one thing, then we could get super successful in that area. So find 5 hours a week to work on the business. That's what we're targeting to start with. The more you do that, the more time that you'll find. And delegation is about as much about you letting go as about the team. What's the impact going to be on the team if you start delegating? Your first thought might be, oh, well, they don't want to take on anything else. They haven't got enough time. But do they really? Most good people want to be accountable, be responsible for more things. So if you manage it in the right way, people will want to help. And delegate, not abdicate. Delegate means training people. It means spending time with them, giving them support to start with. And it could be that it's harder to start with. And this is why most people just say, I'll just do it myself. But if you do it yourself, then you're going to have to do it again. If you spend the time to train somebody, and when you're training, make sure you put a permanent system or process in place. Now, with technology these days, you can get somebody to record a video of you. You could record a video of you showing people how it's done. That's a permanent record that people can go back to and to review again. You can do a screen capture video if it's something that's online or on your computer. There's lots of ways you can do it. You can do a checklist. But if you tell somebody how to do something, you're going to have to tell someone again, whether they leave or they forget. If you record it, then it's permanently there for somebody else to use in the future. So one of my clients did a video library of all the different systems and processes that there were around the business, and it was something for if someone had a question, they could just go and check the library. So those are the basics to delegation, and make sure that you're most successful in delegation. So what other tips have we got then around time management? Set personally motivating goals. What do you want to achieve out of the day? What do you want to achieve out of the week? What do you want to achieve out of the quarter, and so forth? Don't finish today until you plan tomorrow. So at the end of the day, plan what's got to happen tomorrow. Eat a frog before breakfast, or if you can say by 10 o'clock every day, I'm going to have done this task that I didn't want to do, the biggest task, get that out of the way, then the rest of the day's flying. Don't major in minor things. So going back to that skill fund matrix, what are the things that only you should be doing? Create a default diary and stick to it, even if that's just an hour a day that you have in your diary. There's specific things that you do for focus time. Just build up, or 1 hour a week even, that them. Definitely do it, and people know that's where I am for that time. If you can do more than that, do more than that, but build onto it. Invest time, don't spend it. So what I mean by this is invest time. Produce a process. Produce a training video on how to do something. That's investing your time. Investing an hour to do that video is saving you an hour on and on and on and on again in the future. Every meeting should have an agenda, and think at the beginning of the meeting, encourage your team to say, what do we want to get out of this meeting? If you know what the outcome is, you might be able to get that outcome in the first 15 minutes and save yourself an hour or 2 hours. It doesn't have to be an hour. Another thing with that is, if you're in the habit of setting meetings for an hour, setting meetings with your team for an hour or whoever, how about just changing that to 45 minutes? You've got 10 team members, that's 150 minutes. That's 2.5 hours you've saved in a week just by clipping off those 15 minutes. Video calls save time, save you to and from the meeting. Learn to delegate to your team. And finally, obviously hire an action coach if you haven't got one already. Great. So from what we spoke about today, what are 3 things that you're going to stop doing? What 3 things you're going to start doing? And what are 5 things that you're going to do more of? So you don't need to share those just now, but make a note of those and set yourself an action on this, whether you're watching this live right now or you're watching this on record, what action are you going to take? If it's just one thing, it's just one thing. But what are you going to do differently today that's going to make an impact moving forward? Okay, so we're at the end now. You're free to go. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, I've been Nick Gray for Action Coach X6 Central, and I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.